Welcome to the Zero Filter Sessions. My name is Kathy Christensen. If you're not familiar with me, I've been an industry veteran of the medical aesthetics industry for about 20 some odd years, close to 25 years, and recently launched Christensen Consulting. And am really excited to launch this podcast as well. As my time in the industry, I've had a chance to really get to know a lot of different people, a lot of different characters in our community. And the purpose of this podcast is to just kind of take a peek behind the curtain and really get to know people in the community and what makes them tick. So with that introduction, I'm very excited to welcome a longtime friend, a font of knowledge in this industry and pretty much anything else you ask him about, and someone who's really been a pioneer through the medical spa boom. He is semi-retired, but has agreed to come on this podcast, and I'm very excited to welcome Bryan Durocher from Durocher Enterprises. Bryan, welcome.
Hello from Portugal, Kathy. How's it going?
It's good. I'm so glad to have you here. And as I said, semi-retired, Bryan took the first plane he could find out to Portugal.
There's a little more planning that came to it than that, but yes. So we've enjoyed being here we just celebrated yesterday a year of our residency cards in Portugal, and
Nice.
have been living here full time for most of 2025. So it's all settled in, and still yet have a few of my fingers in med spas that I'm opening up in California, Miami, and Rhode Island.
That's incredible. Well, I knew Bryan before I worked for AmSpa. I knew Bryan when I worked for Skin Inc. magazine and
Oh my
Face
gosh,
and
we've known each other
Body.
so long, Kathy, that I think cats were kittens when we first met.
When I think about it, it's astounding and jarring and kind of scary. But also really good because I'm just grateful. I'm always grateful for your friendship. He's just, for those of you who know him, have heard him speak, which is probably a huge portion of you, he's a font of wisdom, and has a very solid head on his shoulders, which is kind of how he was able to kind of succeed in the consultant realm. So, Bryan, I've never actually, isn't it? I don't know that we've ever talked about your journey or your path, how you got here. Maybe it's because I
Oh,
kind of lived through it, but tell me.
deeply planned, not. I think, um, just kind of in a nutshell, I've always was artistic to start with. And so if we talk about it, I was just talking about this with a friend of mine the other day of like, what were your childhood dreams and what did you really want to be, et cetera. And I was talking with my spouse about it as well. And when I was a kid, the very first thing I wanted to be was a comic book artist. And I
Oh,
had sent drawings into DC Comics when I was 11 years old, and they sent me back, a letter telling me to keep up the good work, and they liked
oh,
the art that I was doing and to keep on going. And then I thought I'd be a fashion designer, which again was a continuation of art and that kind of realm field. And then when I was 19, I moved to New York City and I went to work in the modeling industry, which I'd done a little bit in Seattle, Washington prior to moving there, and got a job and kind of from that realm of the modeling world, which was crazy, crazy. I'd be 19 years old, Kathy, and I would come home from work every day. I used to work in the women's division for Click Models and booking models. And at 19, 20, I would have to take like an hour and a half nap to recover from my day before I could like start making dinner and being alive. And so I thought, if I'm at like 20 years old and having to sleep for 90 minutes to recover, maybe I should find something that's a little more relaxing. And I went to work in the spa world. And
yeah.
so I was very lucky. And it was happenstance how it happened. I went to work for Georgia Klinger on Madison Avenue. And she was one of the real original pioneers of spa back in the day with like Helena Rubinstein and Elizabeth Arden, back when there were these grand, beautiful spas that
Yes.
the wealthy ladies who lunched went to. But she was really smart, and I learned a lot from her. And she was still alive when I went to work there. She was very old. She was in her 80s, a little tiny woman, but she could put the fear and anybody who walked her path or by her. Um, I learned product publicity and distribution. And I really learned that if you went into a Georgia Klinger spa, like in the one in Madison that I worked at, it was, 4 floors. And the first floor was a retail store and it had and then a makeup station with artists and things like that. So when you came in, you saw retail products because she knew that's where her big dollars came from, her line of products that she developed. And people came into off the street to buy product. Now, the second floor was a client consultation sales closing floor where she had trained client consultation closing specialists that closed all of the sales on products and packages and series. And these ladies were put together, they were meticulously groomed, excellent salespeople, and they closed all of the sales. You had to go to the third or the fourth floor to get treatments done. So I really learned what it meant to be successful and how to do it in this industry. So I started in spa, and then I went from there to work for Paula Breck and the Reebok Sports Club and the Millennium Building on the West Side, and that was a phenomenal business. I mean, we had 7,500 of your ideal and best clients, as members of the Reebok Sports Club, and celebrities and the whole works, coming there. So we were super busy. I think the last 2 years I was there, we were at 90% occupancy. I think I maybe had, I don't know, 2% turnover. I mean, back,
Wow.
just to give you a comparison, back, 20, 30 years ago, nail techs were making $50,000 a year. Estheticians were making $100,000 a year. Hairdressers were making up to $300,000 a year 30 years ago. So it shows you the kind of volume of business that was done, and then that's where really the evolution into medical came into play. Obviously, we were cutting edge in all of the different things that we did. We had a very discerning clientele that wanted the latest and greatest, and so we brought lasers in 1997 and did
Wow.
laser hair removal, and which was very painful at the time, I have to say. Lasers have evolved tremendously since that point, which is good. And then yeah, so uh, I did that. I grew into that business, and I worked there. But really, was a catalyst that I learned from working with Georgia Klinger, and I learned from working at Paula Breck. And I'm still, I still talk to my boss from Paula Breck 30 years ago now because his name is Bryan as well, and he was just a great mentor and just a really great guy. And what I learned, though, it was all about product publicity and distribution. And I just assumed that everybody made money in this industry because I'd
Uh-huh.
worked with really successful people. The reality is that hardly anybody makes any money, and they don't know how to start a business or run a business effectively, or they may be brilliantly good with people, but they have no sense of
Hmm.
numbers and structure and organization and things of that nature. And so how my business started was my son was 6 years old, and I had grown up in the West, and I wanted him to grow up in the West and have a backyard and just have a lifestyle that I had growing up. I didn't want him just growing up in New York City, and so we
Hmm.
moved to California, and I was out there, and probably I want to say I met a couple of other consulting people who I could synergistically work with, and I started my business. I want to say like a year after I got there, and I started Kathy say 1999 in October of
Hmm.
1999. So I just celebrated 27 years, 27, I think 27
That's
years in
incredible.
business. But I started with one client, and I hoped
Hmm.
that I could pay my rent. And
Hmm.
I had no website, and there
Hmm.
weren't podcasts and any of these kind of things, or digital social media. None of that even existed yet. And I just started building one client at a time, and I got my business through word of mouth, which is still one of the most effective and potent ways to build your business today is by
Hmm.
referral. So it was an evolution of things over the course of time, but I can tell you that having that foundation of Georgia Klinger and Paula Breck and understanding product publicity and distribution, because one of the first things I realized was, hey, I can't be everywhere all the
Hmm.
time. And um, Perhaps there's some people who would like my knowledge and information, but they maybe can't afford what I'm charging in consulting prices, et cetera. So I created product. And so over the course of that time, I created 17 different business building products, covering all the aspects of operations and running a successful spa first, and then eventually into med spas. And so whether it was business planning or compensation programs, or how to have your front desk run well, or how to coach and develop your people, or how to go out and network and talk to people. That was really that key foundation that helped me build a business that you can make money while you're sleeping. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really what every business owner should be looking to do. Have it not just be your two hands working, while you're awake, making you money, being diversified that way. So that's why, as you know, for all the years that we've known each other, that I've been a huge advocate of retail and having,
Right.
a retail store in your med spa, having everybody trained in the product and how to recommend things effectively, because retail doesn't call in sick. Retail has a much higher profit margin, and you can sell 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your online
Yeah.
store. So even today, being far, far away, I still sell product, and I'm grateful because it's something that has helped build my business and stay successful, especially during times that were tough. As you and I have been around a long time, we certainly remember the great financial crisis. We certainly went through
Can you say
COVID.
that differently? Like, figure out a way to make that sound better.
Better. In our years of wisdom and experience existing here, we've had
Right.
a lot of
Better.
time to go through these things. And those are the things, that really help you longevity, having multiple income streams and not having it just be your two hands, and you doing a service that makes you your money, that you have working through other people, right? Because owning a business isn't easy. If it
Right.
was, everybody would do it. And a lot of people don't realize, that the first 2 years of any business, not just a med spa, any business, 80% of them fail. And then in the
Mm-hmm.
second year, the 20% who made it past, 80% of those fail. So, it's an achievement. I was just actually talking to one of my med spa clients in Florida, Miramar, and she's going into her third year of business, and she's like being tough on herself. I said, you need to take a moment to honor yourself. You've made it.
Yes.
You've made it
Yes.
into your third year, and you've learned a lot of lessons, and you don't keep on making the same mistakes. So give yourself credit for this achievement, because that is a big achievement to make it into your third year in business while you're figuring things out. And everybody, as you know, in business has a learning curve. And that's why
Yes.
I was lucky to work, right? And help people is, I think probably the greatest gift that I had was that I worked with lots of different people in lots of different places. So I could see best practices from so many different viewpoints, and that I could filter those and bring them together and then help people with those best practices no matter where they were.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Zero Filter Sessions. I just wanted to take a quick minute to tell you more about me and how I might be able to help you. I have recently launched Christensen Consulting to help practices like yours with operational and strategy challenges that you're facing. As someone who's been in the industry for 20 plus years and who has grown small businesses from being in the red to being multi-million-dollar companies, I am confident I can help you. Whether you feel like you're always behind in making decisions for your practice, are struggling with team management and motivation, or are assessing how to grow, scale, and make more money, whether on your own or through private equity, I can help. Please reach out to me at Cathy, Cathy, at cchristiansenconsulting.com. That's CCHRISTENSEN consulting.com. Or check out my website at cchristiansenconsulting.com so I can help you find solutions and find success. And now back to our episode.
That I
Well, and
think made a big
I think
difference.
that's where consultants are. Sometimes consultants get a bad rap, just because there are, just like anything else, there are slimy ones out there, and there are people that are trying to make you like spend more money than you need. But then there are the really good ones that have acquired so much knowledge through their time you're like a consultant who's been in business or who's growing their business is basically a part-time employee for all of these businesses that you're growing. So you're learning and you're seeing different kind of cultures and you're seeing different aspects and you're able to kind of plug those in. There's not a better employee than that. Someone who's seen
Right.
different ways to succeed.
I think so. And I always treated my clients' money like it was my own because I understand what it means to own a business and to pay the bills and understand that there's, no magic, Brinks truck coming on a Saturday to load you up with gold to get you by and nobody's going to write you a check.
Actually waiting for mine recently.
Yeah, exactly. And
Late.
so I'm always thinking about money and I'm always very real, meaning that I always give my clients my opinion. Like, you know me, like you never
Uh-huh.
have to wonder what Bryan Durocher thinks. I will tell you. And that's worked for me because I care and I care what my clients are up to. And I'm not there to just take money. And like, even like in all the years, like, that we worked together, if I was speaking at a conference, whatever, I never was out just shilling myself that way. I felt if I provide
Hmm.
good information, who it resonated with people, that they would come to me, we could have a conversation, and an opportunity would go from there. I never took a
Hmm.
hard sales approach because it just wasn't my style to be that way. And I always found that if I was authentic and I didn't never worried about money per se, it always flowed the way that I needed it to. And that in business, this is important. Decide what's
Hmm.
important for you and how much you want to work, how much
Hmm.
money you want to make, what's realistic about that, and choose that path that's right for you. I'm sure, like if I wanted to have made truckloads more money and had given up time for other things, I certainly have those opportunities to do that.
Hmm.
But it wasn't what I was going to choose. Like one of the things in my passions in life has been travel and experience, and
Hmm.
I've I think now have been to 61 countries, and I've been to all seven
Wow.
continents, and I've done it all while I was younger. So, and in
Hmm.
my travels, I've seen people who waited until they were older in their 60s and their 70s, and they've got a trick knee and a trick hip, and then walking down the street is caused them great challenges. Well, I'm really grateful, that I did all this stuff when I was young, and it shaped my whole experiences of things, and that was a value for me. And so
Hmm.
I just lucky from just a few things in life to really focus on what was important. Money is wonderful and it is a tool to have great experiences, but for me, it wasn't the overriding arc in all things that I did. And I found that if I helped people and I really enjoyed it and I helped them be successful, I just was successful as an outcome of that.
Yes.
And I think that's what people need to realize and have your med spas too, everybody, is if you really focus on giving your clients an amazing experience that really, takes into account who they are, what's going to give them the best outcome authentically, and you deliver that consistently, as an outcome of that, you will be successful,
Hmm.
making that difference with each person. It's like people will invest in an experience. They really will. You make people feel special, you make them feel unique, that you've created something just for them. They will come back time and time again. If you make them feel seen and not just like a number. And as we know in the world today, every year customer service just diminishes and diminishes and
Yes.
diminishes to where,
Yes.
pretty soon we won't have a seat on the plane. We'll be holding onto the wing and be told to be grateful that when we get there, type of a scenario. So I think that's really important. Going back to the core, especially right now with things being certain, if numbers get tight or tough for whatever situation happens, really focus on those relationships. Really focus on I always say the top 20% of your patient client base is going to generate 80% of the money for your business.
Well,
Focus on those people. They're the
and
ones who are going to help you grow.
I'm hearing more and more, you know, chains has been a thing in many industries, dental, traditional spa, and it's becoming a thing in the medical spa industry to a certain extent. And this is the first time I've been in several different industries that have experienced this. This is the first time I've really started to hear concern about it from mom and pops, which are still 80% of the landscape.
They are.
But I mean, the importance of relationships for those people, that is your make or break. So how do you, one of the things that is challenging, because it's not just you, oftentimes it's your team members that you
Mm-hmm.
have to rely on to also build and nurture and those relationships and really kind of embody that feeling of service to your patients. I guess it's a double-sided question. Like, how do you hire for that person? And then how important is it that that person embody that? Like, is it if you have this
Right.
incredible injector with all of these social media followers and, you know, a big personality, but they just are not really adopting the culture, the cultural
You have to, I
mantra?
think, okay, so first you have to, let's talk hiring. Knowledge, skill, and attitude is what you're always looking for. You can train in knowledge and skills, attitude. You must hire people with the right attitude. You cannot change people. You can't control people. And the older we get, we all know this, as you see.
Mm-hmm.
So hire people with the
Mm-hmm.
right attitude. The next thing is understand that people need training in sales and building relationships and networking on all of those things. And so you have to be there to be a mentor, to work with them. So many people who come in our industry, which is great, they are people, but they don't understand what all of these, things are, or it's intimidating to go into a room full of people that they don't know and have never met it and say, hey, you should really come and see me, and here's what I do. And then,
Yeah.
people would rather drive across town and avoid a networking meeting than go to one. So you have to be a mentor. You have to go with them. You have to show them how to do it, and it is just building relationships. People like to do business with people that they know. And so it's a relationship. You get to know people over time. People trust you because you show up over time the same way consistently, time and time again. So when you're in like a networking group or something like that, they see you show up consistently, you're helping them out, you're referring people that you know. And people like in networking, they love people like us because we know people from all walks of life. And so we can be a great referral source. And so then they come and see us. And then when they have a good experience, then they send their friends and their family to come and see us. That's how, business happens, and it's the same here
Mm-hmm.
living in Portugal, right? I knew no one except my realtor when we first moved here, but there's a wonderful group called expats. And if I ever needed something, I would just pop it up in the group. People would come back with their experiences, make the referrals of people that they know and trusted, and then it just builds. And I do the same thing too. And so it's everybody helping other and building relationships. So in this digital age, which is marvelous at getting information out there, and hopefully you can grab somebody's attention for 30 or 90 seconds, but it's really that face-to-face person time that seals the deal in keeping you and your business successful. So like my most successful clients, I can certainly say that every one of their staff members does at least 1 to 2 networking things with real people a month. Whether they're going to a networking group or they're going to an event or supporting a charity, they're doing something and getting out and meeting people in their community who are their neighbors, their friends, their real customers. And I think that's just it's a priority. It has to be. And people don't realize, Kathy, how much time it takes to do that. So like you're like a
Mm-hmm.
new business and you're getting started, right? Like my new clients, so like months before they open, I'm like, you better get out there. You need to be looking at these groups and meeting people now and letting people know what's coming, telling your story months ahead of time. Because if you think you're just going to open your doors and like run some ads on Meta, you're going to be disappointed in what the outcome is.
Well, and I think so. I'm curious about your feedback on this. This is a skill. Like, for you are an extrovert, like you can make things happen. This is a skill that a lot of people feel very uncomfortable, like
Mhm.
going out there and doing this. Especially the younger generations that are coming in. They're our COVID babies that lived behind a screen for 2 years and kind of lost that social aspect of things. That's a real skill that's very much missing. How do you build that if you don't
You
have
have to be
it?
a mentor. That's the thing. We know how to do it because I mean, lived in a world where there was no digital anything. I lived, before fax machines,
Mhm.
when if we wanted to hang up on somebody, we just left the phone off the receiver. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
uh, and if, we wanted to travel with our phone, we had a cord that was like 17 feet long. So, the idea though, what happens is from our generation, like I can speak from X and say before, is that we didn't grow up with social media. We didn't grow
Hmm.
up with strangers making comments. Like I would never internalize anything digitally. about what some stranger said about me. It would make no
Yeah.
difference to me. I don't know them. It doesn't matter. But younger people, there's a whole world since 2011 when phones got in the hands of really young people that changed everything. So we just have to understand that with the younger people coming into the workforce, that we're going to have to show them how to build relationships, how to maximize networking and the face-to-face meetings and what difference that it makes in really having sustainable long-term relationships and the value and the joy that comes from those
Yeah.
relationships, because they really do. And if you think about it, you talk to your practitioners and things like that, you say, hey, think about your favorite patients who come in. There'll be a pattern to these people about their personalities, their likes, their dislikes, why you like seeing them beyond them getting a bunch of services done. And going out and seeking out more people like that, because birds of a feather flock together. You want to be
Hmm.
around people who uplift and enhance your life. And I think that's something
Hmm.
that you're very mindful of. That's another gift when you're older that you realize, like through experience in life, I know who I choose to be around. I can see trouble a mile away. I can see by
Hmm.
meeting somebody, and I can read the room really quick if I'm going to pursue a relationship or not. And thus, by having that ability, um, I have a lot of calm and serenity in my life, and the people who are around me enhance my life. They don't subtract from it. And so I really like teaching young people about that. You've heard me say this a lot. Set your boundaries, otherwise other people will set them for
Hmm.
you, and you may
Yes.
not like the boundaries that they set. And especially with women, 90% of our business is women. And my whole career has been working with women, empowering them to live and fulfill their dreams. And
Hmm.
women are caretakers, are nurturers. They want to help everybody else before they help themselves. And I'm always there like, okay, you got to help yourself. And I know sometimes we've got to be firm and fair, and that's not sometimes easy to do when we have to correct people. But the more that we stay true to ourselves, the more that we look to please ourselves as a person, an individual, as a business owner, the more that we will keep to our boundaries and also please other people at the same time and minimize things that don't work for us. I know every one of us has had at one point in our career a client come in and we read that room and like, this is I've been to every other med spa in town. I hope you're the one who can finally make me happy. And that's when I would, chase them right out and not, be performing a service and set a boundary where some people have to learn through those things. So the
Well,
young
and
people have to be a mentor on building relationships. We have
I
to be a,
think that the truth is for leaders, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think the truth for leaders is you're never off, right? Like
never.
people are, if you have a team full of young women, they're watching you build your boundaries. They're watching you, you know, every moment of how you're
Sure.
handling success. And then on top of it, there's not an easy button in this industry. It's not
No,
like you hire someone and then you're off to Cancun for 6 months. That's just,
no.
as
And,
you're
and
saying, it's an investment. Like,
you have to also find out, Kathy, what's going on with your people. The different things motivate different people. So what motivates you or me could be very different for somebody else. And so you
hmm
have to take an interest in, it's a give and take. I need you to do these things. Now, what is of an interest for you that I can help you with in being successful? So I try to have that give and take. But I think it's really important in business to say, okay, hey, here, if you come and work as a part of this team, these are the things that I'm going to expect and I'm going to require. You're going to need to recommend retail products, but don't worry. I'm going to show you what to say, how to say it, when to say it, how to overcome objections. You're going to be trained in all of the product. I'm just not going to throw you out there. I'm going to need you to make sure that you're pre-booking all of your patients for their next service before they leave so that you're consistently guaranteeing your future of your business. I'm going to need you to go to some networking meetings, but don't worry. I'm going to go with you, or one of our team is going to go with you. So you'll never be alone. We're not going to throw you to the wolves, and we're going to show you how to do all this and help you be successful. And we're going to be with you every step of the way to do that. And if there's things that you need, you let us know because we're going to be there for that success too. And that's what keeps people with you.
yeah.
It keeps them and you successful. So I think those are huge parts of it. It's not just having a class one time a month. It's a mentoring that happens every single day, all the time, ongoing, and that's what creates a core success, and staying to the things that like really work, right? It's like if you want new clients, you want to have generate new business in your med spa. So yes, you need to make sure that everybody's going to networking who's in the med spa. You need to have a special event in your med spa every month, promoting product services or highlighting, a member of your community who could be of beneficial knowledge to your customers that they can learn from. You need to be doing social media and putting pieces out there, and all of it has to be done together in a synergy, and it is a never-ending process. And you're going and
Mm-hmm.
planning from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and that's how you keep a flow of patients coming in to the
Mm-hmm.
practice, and realize that it is people in the relationships that make it happen. And you could run a million ads, but if you don't have relationships built to keep those people, right,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not going to have a long-term success with your business.
So, speaking of that never ending process, burnout is real.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout is something that a lot of people, and it's funny because you mentioned that kind of 3 year window. I'm seeing and know of a lot of people that have really killed it the first 2 years, just organically. They're not necessarily doing anything that's special as far as business and advertising and marketing. It just organically is happening. And they hit their third year and so slow down a little bit financially, and it gives you kind of an opportunity to look at what you're doing and trying to figure out where the problems are and where you can build efficiencies for a future. That's really hard to like actually get to the, hustle your butt off in order to get to that point of success, to realize then it is never ending. Like you said, it's like a
Yeah.
never ending process. So burnout is not something that's going away. How is a busy owner supposed to deal with that? What are you do you have recommendations on that?
Well, plan your time. Realize that, okay, so first and foremost, like I say at the beginning of starting a new business, so the first 3 years, you work your butt off all the time. And, you cannot have it all. So, what does have it all mean? It means have a successful business, have a beautiful personal relationship, and spend time with your children, and then go travel and have amazing experiences. You can't do it all because what happens is you're spending so much time building something up new. So like when I was building my business, my son was young. He was, oh gosh, so if I'm like say 99 to 6, 7, 8 years old at the time, and I was working all the time. And
Uh-huh.
and he's like, well, why can't you do this and why can't you do that? And I said, because I'm working, I'm trying to build a business. I don't have a guarantee of a paycheck. I'm the one who does this. And then, so there was resentment, with your
Uh-huh.
kids when you can't be there for all those things. But then later on, when he became a parent and it was into working adult, he's like, oh God, I totally get it now. So sometimes his
So your
experiences.
payback is like 30 years down the road. It's the
Yes.
long
So
game.
in business and as a parent, I just want to let you know that eventually, if you really cared in the beginning, honest to God, and I think this is true, it's a metamorphosis. So I was delusional in thinking when I was 17, I left home. I never looked back and never went back home again. And I moved to New York City when I was 19. And I just always
Mm-hmm.
worked and I hustled. And, you know, delusionally when I sent my son to university when he was 18. And there was always never a conversation of if you'll go to school, it's where you'll go to school. And you
Mm-hmm.
can be whatever you want to be, but you're going to go to school. I wanted him to have that opportunity. And then delusionally, I thought, oh, I'm sending him off. I'm going to take that break that you're talking about from a different way. Oh, no, no, no. There's no break to be taking. I monitored, managed that boy through all 4 years of university, making sure that everything was done and taken care of. Some couple of come to Jesus moments, even though he was, and I use the term loosely, an adult,
Oh
um,
yes.
that you have to reframe, refocus to do because it's an ongoing process forever. And then only then, when he was 24 and he walked down the aisle, did then, and he never asked for any money anymore, and now he's been married for 9 years, going on 10. And we have a granddaughter who's 2.5.
Wow.
And
Has it
he's,
been that long?
yeah, and he's a great dad. He's the regional manager for a retail chain. And his wife's a cosmetologist, and they work really hard and they just do a great job. And now, like, he will call and if he asks me for advice, I only give advice when I'm asked. I never give any advice when I'm not asked. And it's an evolution of commitment. And so your business, and I would tell this to everybody who's listening, Kathy, it's the same way. You are putting a lot of effort and time in, particularly in the beginning. And then you're just saying, where's the payback for all of this? And you're working really hard. But I can tell you that as it grows and evolves, that, there is a payback. And it definitely is after the first few years. So you start to make money because you're paying back all your startup costs, everything in the
Uh,
beginning. And
uh,
then you're making all your mistakes and putting all your processes together. Then you'll have people who you hired, who were crazy, and then you had to get rid of them, and then find other people who weren't so crazy. You get better at your hiring process, and then you'll have this beautiful whole team. And then four of them will get pregnant and move on and do something else, and you'll have to start all over again. And you just are committed to it. But the good thing is you have a core set of processes that you work with, the guidelines of managing your business. They will get easier and easier as it goes along with those processes. And I would encourage everybody with that, then just make you time for yourself. Remember,
yeah.
the only reason to own a business is to work through other people to make and do more than you could do for yourself. And that's that key. Make sure to step away, take time for yourself, hire really good people who can take care of the store while you're
Hmm.
gone having that vacation so that
Right.
you can relax and enjoy. And everybody deserves that. That's the reason to have that business, is so that you can have more flexibility with your time and do more things. And I can tell you also, make time for other things. Business is wonderful, money is wonderful. But if you make, and I know this early on, I can say this too, you know, in 2005, 2006, and 7, like I owned two homes. I had my home in Austin, Texas. I had my home in Whitefish, Montana. All I was doing was working all the time to pay for things that I never enjoyed.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so the great
Yep.
financial crash happened. So thank God, prior to that, I said to myself, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm putting both my houses on the market at the same time, and whichever one sells, I'm going to the other one that didn't. And so my house in Texas sold 30 days before the financial crisis,
Wow.
literally. And I moved to
Perfect
my house in
timing.
Montana. And then, I made the most of it. And you need to take care of yourself, take time for yourself, whether it's a ritual. I don't care, guys, if it's, having an hour for coffee for yourself in the morning consistently, or with your partner, going to the gym, or like I love the outdoors, and so I spend a lot of time outside hiking and skiing and snowshoeing and all those kind of things. Do things that enrich you, and then that fills you up to then give more to all the work that you do, that makes you your money and all of those other things. But you just can't have one thing be everything.
Yeah,
It
no,
won't
I
work.
think I recently saw a quote and I've seen it before, but every time it hits me, it's like build a life that you don't need a vacation from, right? Like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that, but like your vacation, that's a moment of joy. It shouldn't be the only moment of joy you have in and
you're absolutely
I can
correct.
personally say that's, for many, many years, that was my case, where I was just burning the candle at both ends. And I was really, instead of working for the weekend, I was working for vacation where I can just stop
Mhm.
for a minute.
Well, because you're a
So
mom, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur, and you were a business person, and you had people who counted on you, and that you don't see women walking out of their lives.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
they are literally entrenched in doing so much for everybody else, and so that's why it's always important. The average, American woman, she's doing everything for everybody else, and at the end of the week, if she has 5 minutes for herself and she does something for herself, then she feels guilty that she's done
yes.
it. And so
So,
I'm
they say it's
constantly,
impossible for a woman to lead a double life. It's always
yes.
the men who have like two families and stuff.
I'm
It's
sure they have the time.
impossible.
Yeah, it's not possible. And so, but I always telling my clients, women, is take time for yourself. Do things for yourself. You deserve this. You work hard. It's totally okay, to do whatever
Yes.
you want. And when the more of that you do, the more you enjoy what it is that you have. And I think that, and if you have interest in diversifications and relationships, like, so we've been here for 9 months in Europe, and we have a friend group of 30 really exceptionally lovely
It's
people,
incredible.
and I love to cook, and I'm a good cook, and I know how to entertain. So it's easy to make a friend group and invite them over to your house for dinner and have
Just
great
feed them.
conversations. Yeah, feed them, absolutely. Feed people, they come back. But it's enriching. You know what I mean? It's like
Uh-huh.
when you have good people relationships, friend relationships, it really adds so much to your life. And you can have work friends, but as an owner of a business, you really can't be friends with people who you employ.
Uh-huh.
It can cause challenges and have layers of things that can backfire on both sides. So I think it's important
Mm-hmm.
to have a strong friend group out there uh, who have all the different interests that you have. Like, and you have friends, you're friends for different things. I have my business friends. I have my cooking friends. I have my outdoorsy friends. One person can't be everything to you, just like your business can't be everything to you. Mix it up and
Right.
enjoy all of those things. That's that life well lived you talked about. It really makes a
Yeah.
difference. Like people, oh, what are you gonna do when you're not just doing this all the time? I said, live my life like I've always been
Yeah.
doing. And I have a
Yes.
great life. It's like I enjoy my life every day. And it's not chaotic. And I worked hard. But I had lots of years to do all of those other things. And
Yes.
so you do have to work hard. Let's put that out there. And you have to work hard to have something, to have a goal to move towards, to be able to have it on the backside. You can't, be
Right.
like, hey, whatever, because that's
Yeah.
not gonna,
Yes.
that won't
Then
get
you're
you
going to be working forever. Like if you don't ever work hard, you're going to be working forever.
right, right. Well, it's smart, working smart. Look,
Yeah.
diversifying yourself. So
True.
really work through other things that just aren't you, that are helping to create revenue streams besides the work that you do, so that you can have options. And then things get tough too, right? All of your eggs aren't in one basket. So
That's right.
that's another thing that's really important for sure.
Brian, I'm curious. I've never asked you this, but if you hadn't like gone down the medical spa path, where would do you ever think about what your career would be, like ballet dancer, FBI agent?
Bouncer at a bar.
What would you have done? What do you think you would have done?
Um, well, I suppose an artist, I guess, would have been
Yeah.
the logical thing to do. I have behind me is my drafting table, an art table, which I brought from America with me. So in my little head, I think every day you should be over there doing something with that. And so I think that's kind of coming up in my future of things.
Your brain is an amazing thing to me. Like, I'm fascinated because you're so logical and I never know what the right brain, left brain is, but I know that, there's one side of the brain that's very logical, very organized, very patterned, and then there's the artistic side of the brain. So for you to have strength in both is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I would tell you the thing that has made me really, really successful, besides like some of the skill set things, is I've always had a good intuition. I've always seen things ahead. I've seen where things were going, and I would
Hmm.
be on the front end of whatever I was happening that I needed to do to be successful within my life, not just at
Right.
work. Like I knew the medical spa thing was coming before there was even the word med spa that existed. And I shifted that way, gosh, 19, 20 years ago,
Uh-huh.
before they were even, they were even out there. It's just everything is just, or like moving to Europe. I knew it was the right thing for me to do, and shifting for what I wanted for the next phase within, in my life. So I think,
Because you can be crippled, can't you, by numbers? Like, can you be like what you're saying to me is like you are listening to your intuition and your gut that's telling you information about how you should move forward or what decisions you should make. You're not always waiting for the numbers to line up. You're not always waiting for, is that a correct statement?
yeah, I think what you need to have a handle on how things work, and you need to adjust your basis of things, too. I think that obviously, um, what's a priority and what's important for you. So, like, I can say for me, importance for me is experiences within life. I don't need any more stuff. I certainly downsized greatly when I came, which I was thrilled to do in my 50s. I saved my children from going through what they would term as junk
Yes.
later on, and streamlined, so I don't have to do that when I'm older, and I have what's important around me. So I think that's really important. I think it's just look at what is important, and if you take things to what's really important, your essence of what's important for you, it's not this big overwhelming numbers, packages, directions.
Yes.
It's a very small, concise amount of things. And it makes it easier to think about things and make decisions and of that nature. It's like going back to your business. There's a million different things, but if you go back to what's the most important thing that I do, build relationships, offer quality service and products, care about people, follow through. And if I take it back to that core, it makes it easy for me to look at, okay, what do I need to do to make these things happen? And the rest will fall into place.
Right. But I think it's important to what you're saying is that it's a combination of information and knowledge and experience that you're using to make decisions. I think a lot of people are wanting to see 100% the path that they should take. And
Oh
sometimes
gosh, I don't think that it's not
possible.
there. No, I think parts of it are possible for sure, but so much unfolds for you, that
Right.
it changes and this world is changing. And now we have technology changing things on a rapid scale. So I think it's important to be curious, be abreast of what's
Yes.
going on, what's out
Yes.
there, what's available. That's very important. And be flexible. Be flexible
Mhm.
for, your path. I can certainly tell you that everything I did, I didn't map it out. And now when I was on my journey, I may have did my planning as I was going along, but I wasn't like that wise 11-year-old going, "Yep, I think there's going to be a thing called medical spas 25 years from now, and better get on the
Yeah.
bandwagon." It's like let's see where this goes. But
Well,
I do know as you get older, you've had those experiences. You can make decisions through previous experiences to help you accumulate more good experiences and better
but I
outcomes.
love what you're saying. Like you're combining that experience with stay curious, continue learning about like if
Yes.
AI scares you, go learn about it. I can
But
tell
yet, don't
you,
make all of your decisions based upon what an algorithm tells you. That
right,
would be another thing that I would say.
right.
I had somebody, a young person, say to me the other day. I was asking AI what I should do about my relationships, and I said, with people, and he said, "Oh yes, I don't like to go to my friends; they might judge me." And I was just like, "Wow, I would
That's
never
crazy.
in my mind have that cross my mind." And
Yes, but that's what we're dealing with, and that's what we'll
yeah,
continue to deal with. But AI can be a super useful tool too, especially if you're a solopreneur or you're someone who doesn't
yes.
have a lot of help. Um,
I think
you,
moderation is a wonderful thing. Critical
yes,
thinking is a wonderful thing. Use things in all moderations. Use your thinking. That's very, very important. And as humans, our connections are the most important thing that we have, and building relationships. At the end of the day, it's everything, And I know this just from another personal standpoint. As you know, my sister passed away not too long ago, and she was
I'm
very,
sorry.
very near and dear to my heart. And she
Yeah.
was only 61 when she passed. And she said right before she passed away, I wish I would have
Uh-huh.
uh, traveled more and worked less. I wish I would have spent more time with my family and my friends. I wish I would have lived more of the life that I wanted to live versus what other people thought of things. So,
Yes.
these kinds of pathways just are real markers for you to really think about what's important for you and decide for you
Yes.
what it is you need to do. And I definitely, it was obviously I've lived my life that way anyway, but
Yes.
it was a comforting thought knowing that what, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. I don't have any of those. I don't really have any regrets, and I try to be mindful of that. And as people in business and as life, you need to do that for yourselves. Take care of yourself,
Yes.
and it really spend time on your relationships that are important. They will add so much more value for you that it will enhance all the business and everything money making thing you could possibly do. If you're happy and you have great friends and you're out doing stuff that you love doing, plus you love your work and all of that, then you will have the best time. And as you and I know, since we worked together for a very long time, sometimes we had so much fun. I wondered if we were working. So, I
That
mean,
actually brings me to my last question for you, and I appreciate how much time that you spent with me today. Um, I'm curious about this, and I know somehow, by our time together, I know that you and I are music lovers. Um,
everyone
we've
should know that Kathy and I were paid in chocolate bars for singing in the Westin Dallas Hotel many, many years ago during a conference while we were in the hallway and the sessions were going on.
and we were
You know,
bored out of our minds because it was
we
going on
were.
forever.
It was good though, and a woman came up to us and said, "That was really lovely. Let me give you a chocolate bar." So we
I
were
know
working
you
at the
know
time.
music. Yeah, many duets. That's the stuff, right? Like that's the stuff of life. But what would your theme song be right now in your career? Like, I want to know.
Theme song. Okay, let's think about that. That's a very good question. Which is what everybody says when they need a moment to think
Yeah,
about the
wait,
question.
that's how'd you come up with that question? You can think about
You
it
know,
now.
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is.
Okay, tell me.
There's a wonderful British singer right now who's very, very successful, and she's coming into her own. And her name is Olivia Dean.
Olivia Dean.
I
She's
love her.
amazing.
She is
Love her.
amazing, and she has a song that's called "It's So Easy to Fall in Love with Me," and it's a
Oh,
wonderful song. And that would be my song right now. It's so easy to fall in love. There's so many wonderful things in this world that we should all focus on. Get off that doom scrolling crap, monitor and
yes.
balance it, and find things that you love to do, people you love to do them with, and you will have great enhancement and joy in your life to counterbalance all of the other stuff that we have to deal with.
Wonderful. I love it. And yes, my son put me on to Olivia Dean, and she's amazing. She's amazing.
She is. And another British artist, just for your listeners, before we go, of course, I love Ray. I've loved Ray for years before she started to really launch it off here. And her song, Where Is My Husband, is number 13 on the chart this week. And she is a hard worker. She's an independent artist whose label kicked her to the curb several years ago.
Oh,
And because they didn't want to produce the kind of music she wanted to sing. And she said, you know what? There's the kind of music I want to sing. I'm going to be the kind of artist that I want, the songwriter I want. And guess what? She proved him wrong. And she is absolutely killing it and successful and producing music that I can guarantee you we would never be listening to if we were
uh-huh.
listening to people who were making corporate decisions. So
Yes.
I love anybody who's just gets out there and is creative, is an
Yes.
entrepreneurial, and she talks about that too. It's not just getting up there singing; it's all the business stuff you have to learn and to do and to
Yes.
balance. And but you know what? She surrounds herself with good people who that she can trust and has a great team behind her, and she loves all aspects of what she does, and that's why she's successful.
I love that. I feel like the theme for this podcast is life is too short for the bullshit.
Yes, and as you get older, the more and more you realize that for sure. Do the things you love, set the boundaries, take time for yourself, please yourself first. Don't run around pleasing everybody else. You'll never do enough. And
Yes, true.
and things, work out and eat good food. Coming from somebody
Yes.
who loves to eat and loves to cook. Tonight I'm making osobuco
Oh, I'll be
with
over.
mashed potatoes.
I'm coming.
It's
It'll
it's been
be,
slow cooking for 3 hours.
oh my God. Why do you live in Portugal? I want to come eat dinner with you.
You can come. Or
Okay,
you say in
well, save
Portugal,
some for me.
they would say "Meu casa é su casa."
Aw. Yeah, same here. If you ever find yourself stateside, my house is
Obrigado.
your house.
Ah, wonderful. Well, thank you
All
so much. It's
right.
been a
Well,
pleasure
thank
to
you.
be with you and your listening audience, and I will look forward to many more great conversations with you. And congratulations on your exciting new venture with Kathy Christensen Consulting. If anybody knows how to get things done, it is Kathy Christensen.
Oh, you're so sweet. I didn't even pay you for that. Well, thank you, Bryan, for your time. Very much appreciate you. You're, as always, a font of knowledge, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Sounds great. Take care.
All right. Bye, honey.